As we've discussed, Port Macquarie is a strong access gateway to Lord Howe Island and also has strong commercial and economic ties, which we hope to highlight today, and which brings us to our next session, which focuses on Lord Howe Island and her many world-class experiences. We've got two speakers in this session. I hope they're going to be on time and make up a few minutes, in fact. First up will be Ian Hutton, who has spent 40 years exploring, photographing, recording, researching and running nature tours on Lord Howe Island before he assumed the title of Lord Howe Island Naturalist. He's written 12 books, contributed to over 50 science papers on its flora and fauna, lectured on Lord Howe Island and its conservation programs around the world, from Hawaii to London and New York, etc., etc. Following Ian will be Timmy Maxwell, who has a strong commitment to the sustainable growth of Lord Howe Island, and who, alongside his father, planned and decorated Island House, a high-end private lodge tailored to small groups with adaptive service model. He's got other great stuff that he will also talk to you. You don't need to hear it from me, so I'll hand over to you, Ian.
Well, it's a great privilege to be here, part of the North Coast Tourism Symposium. As Jackie said, we've got two speakers about Lord Howe Island. My part is mainly going to be visual. It's a very visual destination, Lord Howe Island. So a lot of nice images, and there it is. It's a World Heritage Island, high level and endemic species. 85% of its natural forest remains. Just as contrast, Norfolk Island has 5% left. And we have a permanent population of 400. As well as the permanent population, we have a tourism cap of 400, and that's quite unique. It creates some challenges when you're trying to build economic activity, but a cap of 400 tourists gives the island quite an edge in creating a world-class experience. And there it is, off the coast of Australia. We're quite a long way out, 500 kilometres east of Port Macquarie. And Port Macquarie is a bit of a link of the whole north coast of New South Wales to Lord Howe Island. The Eastern Air Service operate out to Lord Howe Island, not only with passengers but with freight, and the Bird-on Shipping Company, they operate a ship, the Island Trader. And the Island Trader brings all of our supplies: food, fuel, building material, cars, surface mail, so that's a vital link. Every fortnight the Island Trader is coming out for us, and there's a great connection with the businesses, not only at Port Macquarie but all the way up the north coast, whether it's furniture, motor cars, food, all of those essential things. And we get a lot of support from the tradies at Lord Howe Island, at Port Macquarie. So painters, carpenters, mechanics do come out and service and do a lot of work for us as well. Also, we sit in the electorate of Port Macquarie, so Leslie Williams, our state member, and she's very supportive of Lord Howe Island and particularly the tourism out there. Okay, so Lord Howe Island itself is a World Heritage Site, and there's about 1,000 World Heritage Sites, but the majority are man-made cultural places. There are far fewer natural World Heritage Sites, so it is quite a privilege for Lord Howe Island to be on this list. And Lord Howe Island meets 4 of the criteria for Natural World Heritage listing. One is its example of geological processes. 7 million years ago, a volcano created a large island, and there's about 2.5% of it left, but it is a very dramatic 2.5%. The second criteria for World Heritage listing is just the stunning landscape. It is a very beautiful island. Everybody who goes there remarks upon that. People that travel the world always say it's very hard to beat Lord Howe Island as a visual landscape. And the third criteria for World Heritage listing, the flora and fauna of the island. Very diverse plant life, birds, insects, and we're not really biologically part of Australia. We are more connected to New Zealand and New Caledonia, so it's quite a different experience when you go there to experience the forest and the animals and plants. And the fourth criteria for World Heritage listing, ongoing evolutionary processes. Over time, the plants and animals that have arrived at Lord Howe Island have evolved to become genetically unique to Lord Howe Island. So we have a high level of endemism. More than half of our plants are only found at Lord Howe Island, and perhaps 2/3 of our animals also. And with all that wonderful biodiversity out there, there has been great scientific interest in Lord Howe Island in all sorts of fields and from countries all around the world. And these scientists that came along from the very beginnings were very impressed by what they found. They made a lot of conservation recommendations. In 1872, the whole island was declared a forest reserve with restrictions on cutting trees down. And in more recent years, we have a conservation area that covers 75% of the island. So 75% of the island is like a national park, and that is protecting the island. Now, of course, wherever humans have travelled in the world, they take their domestic animals along, and the early sailors that visited Lord Howe Island put pigs and goats there as food, and various other animals were brought over. And of course, these have had an impact on the flora and fauna, but in the past 50 years, the government, the community, the administration have worked to remove most of those feral animals. Pigs are gone, goats are gone, there's no cats, the dogs are very strictly controlled, and in 2019 there was a world-class rodent eradication program. Lord Howe Island was the largest inhabited island in the world where rats have been removed from. Very big project, about $15 million, 160 personnel from around the world to remove all of the rats and mice. And we're just now seeing the great benefits of that. We have a flightless bird called the woodhen lives there, and within 5 years of no rats, those birds have increased tenfold. They've gone from 200 to 2,000. And all of the other birds and animals are increasing as well. The conservation is not only around removing feral animals, it's also removing feral plants, and in the early 1980s the weeds were recognised as a significant problem, and probably in the last 20 years the federal government have put about $15 million into removing the invasive plants. It's not just people going out into the field doing this, it's using some very expensive and sophisticated equipment to do this, and the aim is to totally remove all of the feral plants. And a big part of the protection of World Heritage is biosecurity. We do have the ship coming from Port Macquarie each fortnight, we have aircraft flying in every day, and that's potentially a way that unwanted things could get into the island, so very tight biosecurity around food coming in, people bringing fungus on their shoes and so forth, so very good biosecurity to protect World Heritage. And sustainability, the island is going down the sustainability path. About 4 years ago, a renewable energy system was set up with solar, and we get about 80% of our electricity now from this solar system. And of course, people, tourists, do consume and produce waste, and Lord Howe Island has world-class waste management. And there is no landfill on Lord Howe Island, all of the waste is sorted, and it's either composted, recycled, or shipped off the island. There is no landfill on the island of waste. With the World Heritage listing, there was a progression to move towards nature-based tourism, and this is the main reason that people do travel to Lord Howe Island now. The island does have the world's most southerly coral reef, and people enjoy that, just snorkeling out from the beach, having close encounters with the marine life. That's a Spanish dancer sea slug there. And there is a scuba operator on the island, and you can go out on the scuba diving and enjoy all of those adventures. And there are also snorkel tours going out there as well. And all of the tour businesses on Lord Howe Island are owner-operated, and they're often just a solo operation or 2 or 3 employed at the most. So the people that are running all the tourist business are locals. They have lived there all their life, and people that visit get a very authentic experience with that close connection with the people that live there and make the island home. Sea kayaking, when the weather's calm, there are some great sea kayaking experiences. And Lord Howe Island is Australia's best seabird island. There are more seabirds breeding at Lord Howe Island than any other part of Australia. 14 different species coming each year, and maybe 200,000 or 300,000 seabirds. And because we do have visitors that come that are very responsible, there's no restrictions on where you can go and enjoy the bird life. So people really have a great time having these close-up experiences with the bird life. And even when the seabirds are raising their young, it's very accessible to get close to that side of things. In the summer months, we do have a shearwater bird there. They're called mutton birds as well. So these mutton birds, they leave the island before sunrise. They go out feeding hundreds of kilometres around the island, and in the middle of the afternoon, if it's a nice, calm, sunny day, they congregate just off the island in these big groups that we call rafts. So there are these experiences just off the island. Most of our seabirds do breed during the summer months and they disappear in the winter, but a bonus is the albatross move north. So during the winter months, you can get out on a boat and enjoy some nice close encounters with the albatross coming past. We do have marine mammals around Lord Howe Island. Dolphins live around the seamount of Lord Howe Island, and at 2 times of the year we do get humpback whales passing the island, so that's another great experience. And with all of this scenery and wildlife, there are world-class photographic opportunities, and photographers do love to go to Lord Howe Island. Anywhere you point a camera, you get a nice photograph. There's lots of things to do without venturing off the land. We have wonderful beaches to enjoy. We have turtles visiting. They don't nest on the island, but they're visiting, and people can get a nice close experience with those. And there's a network of walking tracks covering forests, cliff tops, beaches, and we have got 2 very tall mountains, 875 metres high. The walk up Mount Gower is rated one of the best 10-day walks in Australia. And as well as being able to go out and enjoy the walks on your own, which is a great experience, there are some world-class experiences with guides that have in-depth knowledge, whether it be the birds, the geology, or the flora of the island. And a lot of people do enjoy going out hearing the stories, and this is what the interpretive guides do, tell the stories. We have a palm tree living at Lord Howe Island, which for 160 years has been the world's most popular indoor palm. It's called the Kentia palm, and the history of that, exporting the seeds and seedlings and all of those stories. But it's also been the subject of a scientific story about evolution, and the story of how our palms evolved on Lord Howe Island is a story as big as Charles Darwin's evolution story. And we find that people that do visit Lord Howe Island really are interested in all of the island's facets, and there's a lot of citizen science programs going on, and this gives people the opportunity not only to learn more about the island, but actually to contribute tours. So we have Australian Museum scientists coming out doing beetle surveys with tourists that come out there. We have an annual sea slug census week in February, and that's part of a program down the east coast of Australia at various locations. And the bird watchers are very good tourists. They are generally well educated, they don't mind spending money, so we encourage bird watching and bird recording as citizen science out there. There is a world-class museum on Lord Howe Island. It's with the stories about the environment as well as the cultural life. There have been people living on Lord Howe Island since 1834, and many of the stories are unique to a remote island community. One of the standout experiences for tourists is the Lord Howe Island, Friends of Lord Howe Island Eco Tour model. Back in the 1980s, when weeds were recognised as the biggest threat, there weren't really people or resources funding to do much about the weed problem, and I started a weeding eco-tour program where people actually pay to go and pull weeds out. Some people think it's a bit of a rort, but it's a week-long tour, and people do 3 hours weeding in the morning and they go on guided walks in the afternoon. It's been very strong, and in the time it's been going, there's been 97 of these weeding eco-tours. And some of the people have been 20 times. They just love coming every year. So I think there is an opportunity in any destination of Australia where you can harness the goodwill of people in conservation, and it's a win-win, not only for the environment. For example, with our Friends of Lord Howe Island, there has been, have to get a new changer, I think. There's been 31,000 volunteer hours contributed, and if a $35 an hour rate is put on that, that's over $1 million into conservation that's been provided, and it's been a boost for tourism, $6.5 million in today's dollar terms into the local economy, and that's the airlines, the accommodation, the restaurants, the tour operators, and we do run these in the winter months, which is our low season. So a win for the environment and a win for tourism and the community. Of course, we have a lot of people growing very good food out there. There is a trend, people love to eat local food, so there is this encouragement, and even though we are a very remote island, there's some world-class restaurants on Lord Howe Island. So we are a World Heritage Island with all of these world-class experiences, and I'll just leave it with that shot of the Providence petrel seabirds coming in late in the day in the winter months. About 40,000 of these birds nest there, and it is one of the great seabird experiences of the world. So I'm just going to leave you with that little look at Lord Howe Island.